I want to welcome my good friend, my partner, the CEO and co-founder of Voss Coaching, Mykie Stiller, to our next interview. And I'm actually very excited about this. Not that I'm not excited about the other interviews, but normally we're on the other end of this. And so I know for Mykie, she is always doing so much extraordinary work, but a lot of people don't know her story. And I asked her to come join me today because her story is absolutely phenomenal. And I want you guys to learn from her because I learned from her. I've been learning with her and from her for the last 15 plus years. Mykie, welcome.
Thank you, Arash. I'm so happy to be here. Happy to be in Arizona, but a little uncomfortable being on this side of an interview. So looking forward to it.
Well, you know, we are, at the time of doing this interview, we are about to start our world-class wealth seminar tomorrow. So we have a lot of exciting things coming. But what I wanted to get into first is tell everyone a little bit about your story over the last 15 years, where you were to where you are now.
Sure. So I was 20 years old 15 years ago, so I guess everybody knows how old I am now. And that's when I met you. Rewind a few months before that, I'm actually from a really, really small town in Oklahoma. Grew up on a working farm, we'll put that in air quotes, and had a very normal upbringing, but did not have a lot of money, did not have a lot of extra. And when I was 19, I thought I landed the most amazing job, my dream job as a personal assistant / nanny. And I loved it, had a great family that I worked with, and they just happened to be connected to the personal development industry. So I got introduced to the personal development industry at 19, working with that family. And they were living in Oklahoma at the time and decided to move to Scottsdale. And I remember the conversation like it was yesterday because they said, "We're gonna be moving to Scottsdale, do you wanna go?" And I was like, sure, that quick. Yeah. I always knew that I wanted to get out of Oklahoma. Not because of Oklahoma. Oklahoma is a great place with great people, but because I wanted to go somewhere bigger. I wanted to go somewhere with opportunity and have a fresh start, and that seemed like it. So I came to Scottsdale, where we're at right now, and continued my journey. Met you soon after, and we teamed up, and it's been incredible.
You know, you said something that really struck me. You said, I wanted to do, you said bigger. Mm-hmm. Like, take everyone back who's watching this. You know, you're so young, you're really getting to know yourself, and you probably had a lot of insecurities at 20, I know I did. Yeah. And what did bigger, like if you can go back, what did bigger mean to you back then?
Well, what's interesting is you talk about the very beginning of your story, you wanted freedom, and that was your word. Yeah. I don't even think I would stretch as far as freedom back then, but I wanted better. And I knew that I wanted more than I grew up with. I knew that I wanted different than I grew up with. And so that's what I was searching for. Bigger to me was having a stable income that was great enough to pay my bills and then keep growing at the time. And that was it.
So when you came, what were you earning?
I was earning $1,000 a month.
And now you're leading an 8-figure organization.
Yes.
Big, much bigger.
Yeah.
So you walked into it.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important for people to understand that. People are watching us. And I have people all the time tell me, I want to know how you got here. And there was a lot of dark times that I didn't know if it was going to work out. Now, did you ever feel that way?
Oh, of course. Of course. There are plenty of times over 15 years that I was like, maybe I should just go back to school. Maybe I should get a degree. Maybe I should get a job doing something completely different. Lots of times you feel unsure, and I think that's part of an entrepreneurial journey for sure, but a part of any journey is wondering, am I on the right track? And you just keep moving forward one step, one day at a time.
Now, I want to give everyone an idea, especially you being a woman. Mm-hmm. You're happily married. Yes. With 3 kids.
Yep.
You have a phenomenal family. That's where you and I, when we partnered up, that was one of our words, was family, one of our core values. And for the women watching this, especially the women, because, creating the company that you've created at Voss Coaching Co. with me, and you being a huge part in everything we do, how do you do it with taking care of your husband? Because we all know that's a big task. And then with not just 3 children, 3 young children.
Honestly, I just always believe that I can. So a lot of people they accept the idea of being overwhelmed. They accept the idea of, oh, I have to work or take care of the kids. And since the very beginning, even before I had kids, I just believed everything is possible in a single day. And so I know that I'm always going to be juggling. I know that there's always going to be multiple balls in the air, especially because my kids are very active in multiple activities. And I want to be the one that takes them. I want to be the one that picks them up from school every day. And I also want to run this company, and I want to grow, and I want to keep our company growing. And if anyone can do it, why couldn't I?
Yeah, that's it. That's what I'm always talking about. If I can do it, anyone can do it, and why can't you do it or anybody watching this?
Yeah.
It starts with going bigger.
Well, and I believe mothers know how to multitask better than anybody in the world, too. So
I hear that. I hear that from my wife.
Yeah, I'm sure
you know, it must be, but you know, when I talk to your husband, I think we talk about that we multitask better. What do you think?
You single task really
Yeah,
well.
single task. Excellent.
Yes.
I want to take everyone, you're a genius at marketing. Like that's your gift. You have a lot of gifts within our organization. But give everyone an idea of how you started in marketing and how you taught yourself, and really give them a whole spectrum, even in a little bit a longer version, because I have a lot of people who say, I've never done this before.
Yeah. I think in the business world, marketing was my first love. I had just moved to Scottsdale, and I think whenever I got here was when I realized, oh, I'm not going to have any friends, and I'm not going to have anything to do when I'm not working. And that was a weird place to be, because I was used to having all these friends that I'd grown up with, and I always had something to do back home. And so I got here and it was like, I have nothing to do. And the family that I worked for, they had all these marketing programs laying around. And so I started going through Frank Kern programs, Perry Belcher programs, Jeff Walker programs. This is back at the introduction of the product launch. And I just thought, this is incredible. I want to be able to do this. And I saw marketing as a way of being charming, which I felt fit really nicely into my personality. And I was like, oh, I can for sure figure this out and be really good at this.
How many hours do you think that you studied marketing?
I mean, thousands.
Thousands,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's what I want everyone to understand. No one is an overnight success. You've got to develop the standard and mastery from your goal, which was marketing. Mm-hmm. And now you pick up ideas so quickly and put them into form so quickly.
Yeah.
But like we said earlier, if you can do it, anybody can do it who's watching this, whether it's not necessarily that they want to be a marketer, they might. There's a lot of people here who love marketing, but don't know how to do it. And if you look back, when you started to study it, was it like Braille to you?
I had just gotten my first laptop that week. I mean, it was brand new. But I think with a little bit of curiosity and a lot of initiative, anyone can figure anything out and be really great at it.
Yeah, you know, a lot of people don't know how we really met. So I remember it very vividly. Mm-hmm. Mykie and I had a mutual acquaintance, and who we were working with. Yeah. And we both were fond of him at the time. And I'd go there, and then Mykie was always there. I actually thought Mykie lived there. So, and then we got connected. He connected us and said, I want you guys to work together. And it was literally like so much synergy from the beginning. Yep. We were both doers. Yep. It was like, we'll figure it out. We didn't know what the hell we were doing. And I remember we didn't know what we were doing.
No experience.
No experience. We just said yes to everything. Yeah. And, you know, it's so interesting now, full circle. But I want you to tell everyone, if you look back, what are some of your biggest lessons that catapulted you to where you are now?
I think some of the biggest lessons are always maintaining a positive attitude and saying yes. You just have to say yes and keep moving, because you can always change your mind. You can always correct course. But if you don't ever get going, there's no course to correct. You're not moving anywhere. And I want to back everybody up just a minute, because before I met you, I actually met your wife. Veronica and I were both part of a women's leadership group. And I remember to this day, she said, I'm engaged to this guy, and he's so positive all the time. He wakes up and he's like, what do you want to do with your life? And that's exactly how I see it right now. So not much has changed.
Yeah, I feel the same way. You know, I think back at all of, you know, the time we've spent together, and through the adversities, through the wins, through the losses. We had a commonality with our mentor. He had an enormous impact on us. And I remember I used to always tell him, I said, he would tell me, Mykie has the best attitude of anyone I ever met. And I said, sometimes I just need her to say, screw it. Because she would always say, well, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. If anything, I know one big lesson I learned from you has been a can-do attitude. It's always can-do. Attitude is something I've been very frank with, had such an impact on me, but I had to work on it. I had to really work to understand it. Yours is natural.
Well, what's interesting about attitude, though, is I think a lot of people, I know 5-10 years ago, Bob did used to say that I had the best attitude of anyone he'd ever met.
Yeah.
And I think I had a pleasing personality. I had a can-do attitude for sure. Anything anyone would ask me to do, sure, I'll figure it out. I know, I don't know how to do that, but I'll find a way, and I would get things done. But I didn't have a good attitude in the way that we teach attitude. Mm-hmm. I didn't have a good attitude in that I never had scarcity or that I never had worry or doubt. I had a good attitude in that I was pleasant to be around or that I would get things done. There's a difference, though. But I think you actually developed a positive mental attitude the way that we teach it before I did.
Yeah, it was just different. You were definitely more optimistic for everything. And I remember I would talk to Bob and I'd say, I just wanted to be real about where we are, and then he would start laughing. He goes, but that's her genius, and, it's so interesting looking at you now as a mother, as a business partner. Mykie and I, we very rarely disagree. Even if we disagree, we go away and we come back, but it's very rare. And, I think leadership is so important for people to understand because you're not a leader when you own your own company. We were leaders from the beginning. We had to lead ourselves, and then we had to lead each other because you and I worked so closely together through everything that we spent our last 15 years doing. What do you think your greatest strength as a leader is?
I can see the best in others, and I want to make everyone feel good about themselves. I don't know what you think about this. I'm interested in your perspective. Do you think that leaders are born or made?
That's interesting. I think they're born.
Okay.
I think they have this dog in them. I think you can learn leadership. Leadership is a skill, so it can be learned. But the real leaders, you look at Kobe Bryant, he had this dog mentality. You look at some of the best leaders that are out there. See, to me, leaders can't worry what their team or clients are thinking about them, and I think a lot of people have challenges with that. The born leader, they've been doing it when they were little. If you look back, I could look back for me. I remember I was playing baseball. I wanted to win so bad, and I never drank soda. So we'd get these tickets, that you go to the snack shack afterward. I would bribe my teammates. If we win, I'm going to give you my tickets. And that was a form of leadership. Looking back, I think leadership is about defining everyone's role and bringing everybody up. Yep. One thing that I see that you do really well is, number one, you're very organized. And you may go away with something and then you'll come in with an idea of how to suit that person the best. For me, I'm always very honest with people right away. And I'm always holding the image of who they want to be, not who they are. And then I'll communicate, and we have different styles within our organization where we're communicating differently, but it balances out.
I think that's what makes our team so great, is that we lead very differently.
Very differently. And neither are wrong. It's, you have to be comfortable with who you are. I think one of the best lessons I learned along the way, I always talk about people come to us to help them create massive transformation, and monetarily they come to us. They want us to help them increase their income. Yep. And they always ask me, well, what was the key for you? What was the key? And I go, it wasn't a key, but I could tell you, when I got to my first million, it was getting comfortable with who I was. It was honestly pure grit, determination, and I wanted to prove it to myself. But after that first million, that's when the fun began. Because now I wasn't worried about, oh, I was so insecure before. Now I was comfortable with who I am. I activated my creativity. Then I started deconstructing what I did. That's why I really am interested for you. Like, look at what you've created. Like, I know a lot of us don't sit back and say, oh God, I did this. It's not part of what you do. It's not the motivation. But if you look at it for you, what do you think, if you could deconstruct what you did, like 3 biggest lessons, like 3 biggest things that you actually did action-wise, what do you think those were?
First off, I would say, let me back up a little bit, because I think a lot of questions that people have are, was this the original goal? Mm-hmm. No, this wasn't the original goal. Mm-hmm. There was probably 15 goals that led up to this goal. And so a lot of times you're seeing someone where they're at now, comparing it to where you're starting. And my goals were much smaller 10, 15 years ago. 5 years ago, they were much smaller. And so I would say always having a goal first, but it wasn't always this goal. It was a different goal, and then I would achieve it, and then I'd immediately set a new goal. The second is never getting comfortable or complacent, always striving for something. And the third would be, so taking action, I would say, is number 2. Number 3, I don't know.
So go into that action piece. Like, when you take action, give them the attitude, communicate the attitude behind the action.
Yeah. The attitude behind the action would be knowing that if I keep moving forward, things are going to happen. Better things are going to happen. Bigger things are going to happen. My goal is going to be achieved. And I think I always have that expectation whenever I'm taking action towards anything. It's done.
Yeah, we're very similar in that it's done.
Yeah.
I'm always talking about when I set a goal, it's done. Like, I don't even think about it not happening. Mm-hmm. And then I get into the spirit of the action.
Same.
So it's like you're taking decision and action at the same time.
And you and I, neither one procrastinate.
Never.
It's action, and I don't care if it's the right action, because it can always be fixed. There's very few things that are unfixable.
Yeah, and we're not afraid to make mistakes. Mm-hmm. I remember we were doing one of our courses this year, and you forgot to hit record.
Yeah. And
I'm like, well, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Like, big deal. Like, we'll figure it out. A lot of people are too hard on themselves. And I'm always working with people on not being perfectionists. I think that is a big sabotager of success. But when you look at goals, so I was sitting there today with a client at the hotel we're doing the event at. And when I was talking to him, I said, well, what is your why? And the client said, oh, I want to serve. And I said, okay, is that really your why, or is that a bullshit why? Mm-hmm. And I said, a lot of people give a bullshit why, so they're not connected to their why because it sounds good. They don't want to say, hey, I want to earn more money. I said, if you want to earn more money, that's your why. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, my why was freedom, but the freedom was so I could go enjoy life. So do you feel like you're very connected to your why?
I'm very connected, and I'm glad you brought this up, because I feel like I was stuck in my why for a long time, because like so many people, I thought I need to know my purpose, and my purpose has to be tied to what I'm doing. And now I see that your purpose shines through anything you're doing. My purpose shines through whenever I'm being a mom, whenever I'm working, whenever I'm doing anything. Your purpose just shines through you, and your why drives you to keep moving forward. So my why is to provide better for my family than I had growing up, and to show people what's possible.
Yeah, and I think you're a great role model of that and an example. And I know clients are always asking me, because they love our podcast, and they're like, I want to know more about Mykie. And I'm like, well, I'm going to bring her on. But purpose is an interesting thing. I remember when I was struggling, I was like, what is my purpose? What is my purpose? What is my purpose? I got to find what I love. And like, I love sports, but that's not my purpose. Yeah. That's my hobby. And when our mentor told me, he said, forget about your purpose. It'll find you. It was like a weight lifted off my shoulder. And I just focused on my vision. Mm-hmm. And, one of the things that we spend a lot of time with our clients is our vision and getting convicted to their vision. So if you think about your vision, I'm just going to hop on a plane, move to Scottsdale.
Yeah.
I want to get out of Oklahoma. I want something bigger. That was a vision. But now, look at your vision now and how much more defined. And do you think it's important to have it defined?
I think it's important to have it defined, but I think that so many times people want to get it really, really crystal clear, and they let that stop them from doing anything. And so they may spend years in a job that they don't like, in doing something, searching for something, not doing anything, because they can't find their purpose and they don't know their vision. And I don't think that you can let that stop you. If your vision is as little as I want better or I want freedom, those aren't very clear, but they get clearer as you take more steps.
Yeah, I always talk about vision. What happens to me, for me, like we all have different connections with all of these principles, but for me, when your vision is so defined, your mind filters out what's not a part of your vision. It's like, no, scan that, I don't need that. Yeah. And that's why I think vision is so important, because without a vision, you're not going to prosper. Did you watch, I watched a documentary recently on Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No, I haven't seen it.
Anyway, he's talking about, he didn't speak the language. He was so into bodybuilding. And so he was talking in this, that he had all these different purposes. But he said, I was so convicted to my purpose. And I'm like, oh, bingo. And then once he did the bodybuilding and already mastered that, then it was, I want to be an actor, and he couldn't act. And like no one would give him a role because his accent was so thick. And he said, I just practiced it and mastered, but I was so convicted to that vision. Yeah. And I know when we decided to join, like our visions were aligned, and they keep expanding. And if you were going to give somebody advice on vision, what would that be?
My advice would be to imagine you are a dimmer, like a light dimmer, the circle ones that you twist. And every action you take, the light gets brighter. And so every action you take, you're spinning that dimmer a little bit to the right. And as you keep taking action, it gets brighter. But every day that you stop taking action, it goes the other way. And it's turning the light off and it's getting dimmer. You can't find your vision without moving closer to it. Yeah,
that's a great analogy. Now let's talk about failing. No. Like a lot of times, like we're talking about, oh, it's so great, this is so wonderful. But let's talk about when you were, not even saying when you were 20, but when you go through many failures or many setbacks, like what goes through your mind and how do you overcome them?
What's funny is if you say, like, think of a failure, it would be really hard for me to come up with one because I just don't look at them as failures. But in the moment, I just think, this doesn't happen to me. Yeah. Like, this does not happen in my life. And I change what I'm doing, change my attitude, and move forward.
Yeah. When I think of a failure, I could tell it to you like it was yesterday. I missed a free throw my junior year in high school in the playoff game. It drives me nuts to this day. That's hilarious. But like work related, I don't think of a failure. Yeah. Like I don't think of it because I look at them as I needed to go through that. Mm-hmm. I had to go through that. And so, but if you talk about what I was asking, I was like, oh, I remember the ball was bouncing. It went, yeah. Anyway, we lost the game. We lost. Yeah. So, identity is an interesting thing. Yeah. Like I'm super passionate about identity because I say standard and identity changed my life more than anything. Mm-hmm. So what advice would you give for somebody to really expand their identity, and what did you do?
I think I could have gotten a lot farther, a lot faster. You all just heard that I was making $1,000 a month when I first started. If I had seen myself bigger, but that's where I saw myself for a long time, and I was really slow to change that vision of myself and change my idea of myself. I say really slow, a year, 2 years. My income went up every 6 months or so those first few years. But I think if I had just been able to understand a bigger idea of myself, then the way that I grew up, the way that I was raised, who I was in that moment, my results would have happened a lot faster.
So if you were telling somebody right now who's struggling with identity, they really want to go quote unquote bigger. Yeah. They want their next big thing. What advice would you give them in the simplest way that they can improve that identity?
I would just say God doesn't make any mistakes. And do you think that he made you to be small?
Yeah.
No. He made you to be amazing and to live out your potential. What is your potential? Go find it and, grow into it.
Here's what I've discovered about identity. It's the foundation of everything, number one. But your standard creates your story creates your identity. And your standard is your code of ethics and your commitment. Well, you have a unconscious, everyone does, set of standards, their commitments of what they can or can't do. And if I was to tell the 20-year-old person, like, you're going to be running an 8-figure business, you're happily married with 3 kids, you're free, and it keeps getting better for you, would you have believed it?
Never.
Yeah.
Never. You know what's interesting though? They're all so closely tied together. Standard is tied to your identity, tied to your philosophy. It's all tied together. I don't think that you can really drastically improve any of them until you stop seeing your identity as what other people think of you, how other people see me, and really let that go and say, how do I see me? How do I want to see me?
Yeah.
I mean, even 5 years ago, 8 years ago, I was so worried what everybody else thought of me. How do they see me? How am I supposed to be acting? How am I supposed to be dressing? How am I supposed to be talking? Instead of just saying, who do I want to be?
Yeah, it's so funny. You know what just popped in my mind? You sent me a picture of us. I don't remember how many years ago it was.
Yeah.
And first of all, I didn't even know
I think it was only like 6 years ago, which is scary.
I didn't even know it was you.
Yeah.
Like, I saw me and I had these cheeks that were out to here. I was like, and I was like, oh my gosh. I had this big headset. I was working at an office. It was messy as heck. I was like, oh my God. But that's identity. That was where our identity was.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, you could take a picture. I had a client, great, he's a friend of mine now, Kieran.
Yeah.
And he sent me a picture last week before he met me to now. And I mean, completely different. Completely different.
Like physically, visibly different.
Visibly.
Yeah.
That you could see, and you could see it go the other way. You could see somebody doing really well. They stop working on it. Their identity can go the other way too. And you'll see stress. You'll see it on their face. To me, anybody can do this.
Yeah.
And us at Voss and our wonderful team have a step-by-step process that we take people. We've had so many success stories in the last 9 months, like so many. And I won't ask you to say your favorite one, because that wouldn't be fair, and there's so many. But what do you think that we do at Voss that differentiates us from the marketplace?
I think that there's a lot of motivational speakers out there. There's a few teachers out there, but there's nobody who can motivate, teach, and give you the implementation side as well as we do. Just period, bottom line, I don't believe that there is, because you do such a great job of motivating people, yes, teaching them how to think and what to think, yes, but also telling them what actions they need to take, how they need to take the action, what it means to act as if, or to do things in a certain way. And so they're understanding the material, implementing it, and then they realize, I can do this again. This is duplicatable, repeatable. I can achieve this goal and the next one and the next one. And so the results are just taking off.
Yeah, I think that's what we do. And I think what we do that differentiates outside of what you said is we hold them accountable.
Yeah.
We really hold them accountable. Like, if they're not doing it, I'll say, well, look at why. Mm-hmm. And we have to get people to understand their potential. Like, we've heard it before. Oh my God, we all have so much potential.
Yeah.
That's not going to make somebody change their result. We've got to go in and bring that potential out. And that's why mentorship changed my life. And that's what we're doing for people. And I want to keep doing these interviews because they help people, because you get to, it's not just telling them this. You're like, do this, do this. It's like stories of people who've done it. Yeah. A 20-year-old had the guts to get on a plane, say, see you later, Oklahoma, and I'm going to go to Scottsdale and be a personal assistant, and who's developed into a CEO, a co-founder, and constantly growing, and we're just getting started.
Yeah. If you can do it, if I can do it, literally, I believe anybody can do it.
Anybody can do it.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody could do it. I'll tell you this because I love your husband. And if I could get him really moving when he was working with me several years ago, I'm telling you, and I joke with him because I really have a soft spot in my heart for him, but I really believe anybody can do it. Anybody can do it if they want it bad enough.
Yep.
All right, well, thanks for spending time with me today, and I guarantee people are going to love it. I mean, because you're always behind it asking me.
I know.
So how did it feel?
You know, this was interesting. It wasn't too bad, but I'll be happy to be back in the other seat.
The other
again.
seat.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Mykie.
Thanks, Arash.
I hope you guys enjoyed it.